Hey guys, so we're taking a little break from the Christmas stuff today and we're just gonna do a good old-fashioned show and tell. So the other day I was just scrolling back on my Instagram feed to about this time last year and I was just kind of looking at my plants then versus now, and I was just like, I had a little moment where I was pretty proud of a few plants, and there were just a few plants that have done really well for me this year, but I hadn't looked that far back in a really long time. I just kind of relied on my memory, and seeing those photos really was like a little proud moment for me because some of my plants have done really well and some haven't. Like, I just posted a ugliest plants video, but I thought this video could be kind of a celebration of a few plants that have done really well for me this year and kind of showing what they looked like roughly a year ago. It might not be exactly a year ago. I guess you could think of these as like my MVPs this year, the ones that have really put in the work and reciprocated all the love that I gave them. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 plants and we're just gonna go through them. Some of these are probably no surprise to any of you, but sometimes I forget that like brand new people show up to my channel sometimes. So if you're here a lot, you would have seen these plants a lot. If you're new here, hello. And let's just get started. So this first plant, this photo is from less than a year ago. Where should I put the photo? The photo right here. So this photo was taken in March of this year. I planted this as a leafless node in around November of 2021. So this was like after it had been planted and growing, I think, the second leaf. So my Monstera escalado is, I've said it many times, was just such an easy grower. It's one of those plants that really boosted my ego for this genus, Monstera, which I've historically had a rough time with. Like, it's never, I've never been great at growing Monstera. Like any of the deliciosa varieties, I would say even Adansonia I wasn't really good at, but escalado was just such a pleasant surprise, and I've always really loved the large foliage on the escalado. The growth pattern was so just nice and tidy, and to this day it has been just such an easy guy. And if you've ever heard about escalado being a really easy grower in the realm of like rare plants, I'm here to tell you it's true. So here's that plant about 9 months later. It is still in the original cup that I propped it in. It is massively full of roots. It actually really needs the water right now. Yeah, I reckon that once I get it sized up into a larger vessel, it's going to size up even quicker. It's been in this cup for just over a year now, so I would say it's well overdue for a repot. It is also on a lazy pole, which it has utilized very well to grow just really nice leaves. And if you just look at the stem here, it is just such a tidy growth pattern. It actually reminds me a little bit of Monstera partita. It's just very tightly spaced, and that means that like the leaves all kind of like stay nestled close together. And I'll just back you up here. So this one has definitely been a very pleasant surprise for me. So this is the newest leaf here. It's getting holier and holier by the leaf. It's growing in my pond mix. So like I said, I always forget that people who are new to the channel might stumble upon a video and they won't know what I mean by pond. And they're like, why is your pond so chunky? So my pond mix is lechuza pond with added coarse perlite. So the perlite is like this big on average, and orchiata, classic grade orchiata. That's my go-to pond mix. That's my favorite pond mix. I don't add anything else to it. I made the mistake of adding a ton of Osmocote to one batch of pond, and that batch killed so many plants and caused a lot of plants to decline. So I don't do that anymore. I don't add any extra slow release. I just fertilize with my liquid fertilizers. There are leaves from other plants above it that kind of shade the light and shade it from the grow light, because if I don't do that, then this kind of bleaching happens, which was a little bit of a surprise to me because the leaves are a little bit like buttery and leathery compared to Adansonii, so I didn't expect it to be like a bleachable plant, but it turned out it was. So that's my first one. I wish I had a photo of it when it had its first leaf, but I don't. I have it when it was like 3 leaves in, but I would definitely say it was a glow up. So next up is one of the loves of my life, my forever favorites, my Philodendron gloriosum. So this is what it looked like around, let me see, November of 2021. As you can see, I can still hold it with one hand and take a photo of it. I usually get asked when I show this plant whether it's the zebra variety. And what I will say about the whole zebra thing is that the really stripy gloriosums is just, I think, induced by growing conditions. There's the verde form, or like the regular form of gloriosum, and then there's the dark form and maybe the white veins form. I'm not super convinced that the white veins and the dark form are totally different, but to my knowledge there are like at least 3 different forms of gloriosum. So what I believe this one to be is just like a white veins gloriosum. I imported it as that. I just ordered gloriosum from, where was it from? I think it was from, was it Equigenera? It was either Equigenera or Tropicals Plants. This was imported in the summer or late spring of 2021. And through the summer, it just started producing really stripy leaves. And in fall and winter, it was produced like less pronounced veins. It would be less veiny, it would be more just clean primary veins. So my theory is that it's really due to high temperatures that causes this plant to kind of mutate in that way. But anyway, oh my goodness. Oh. Here is that plant now, and I definitely can't hold it up with one hand. I repotted this on camera several videos ago into this planter, and it's already like bulging. It's taken to the repot really well. We got lots of nice pink roots. It's also in my pond mix, and it was definitely one of my biggest goals this year to size up my gloriosum, because I always found it kind of hard to size up. I'm not really sure why. It might have just been the conditions I gave it, but once I started growing this in my tent and once I started giving it great white, it just took off. And it also became a little bit stressful for me because it was outgrowing the space, as I mentioned a lot of times, and this thing barely fits inside my tent now, but it is managing to contain itself. So this was the top cutting. The bottom is here. There's a really long stem on it, and it's activated like 5, maybe 6 growth points. This is definitely one of the biggest highlights of my whole plant year, this gloriosum. It's the plant that I look at first whenever I open my tent. If you're looking to get a stripy one, go for, like, if you're able to choose the white veins one and not pay extra for zebra, then I would say get a small one, give it lots of warmth, and you should be able to induce stripination. Like this leaf was grown in the summertime. It has a lot more of that speckly white striping, but the newer leaf that was grown in the fall, this one, don't mind this one, is a little bit light bleached, but it doesn't quite have as much. This is really awkward to hold. So I'm extremely proud of this gloriosum. It'll always be a forever favorite of mine. And yeah, I'm gonna put it down now because it's really heavy. Next up is my Philodendron patriciae. This was imported by Charmaine in around early 2021. The plan was that she was gonna import patriciae, I was gonna import heterocrospodon, and we were going to grow it, prop it, and trade cuttings. These were massive wish list plants for both of us, but they were always, well, at the time they were quite unattainable. I had been on the hunt for a patriciae for like a year before Charmaine had imported it, and the cheapest I could find was like $800, and there weren't very many sellers who had it. So obviously when Tropicals Plants and Equigenera started to stock them, the prices came down. We got it at a time when the patriciae wasn't quite so cheap as it is now, but it had dropped to less than half of what it used to be. So we bit the bullet, and after having it for a couple months, Charmaine cut hers, gave me a mid cut. I think it was slightly rooted. I never really checked. She was just like, throw it in your tent, it's gonna love it. And that's exactly what I did. So this is what it looked like in January of this year. I had been growing it for about 6 or 7 months by that point. I had been growing it in moss. This was before I kind of eliminated sphagnum moss from my substrates, and it was growing in my tent this entire time, and it was just such an easy plant. Besides the fact that it's extremely thirsty and I had to like water it more often than any of my other philodendrons. This was definitely a point when it was starting to size up for me, and it was starting to grow out of that awkward like axillary bud juvenile growth stage. So fast forward about 11 months, this is what it looks like now. I had heard just such horror stories about this plant, like the failed propagations or it being really finicky and just like dying out of nowhere. So I really wasn't expecting much with it, but I've just had such a good time with this plant. It is now in soil. It is not on a pole, as you can see. Probably wants to be on a pole, but the newest leaf looks like it's gonna be humongous. This is the leaf prior to it, and it's like that like ripply, delicious patriciae ruffles. Just give you a little close up there. And then the newest leaf is already, I think it's as long or maybe a bit longer, and it hasn't even fully unfurled yet. New patricia leaves always look a little bit like, you know, they're pretty, but they're not like breathtaking until they fully harden, and that's when these like ripples come out. It goes from like my elbow to my fingertip, which actually is, now that I think about it, is the length of some of my Philodendron leaves. So this is just such a treat to see. And this leaf was fully grown inside of this exo here, which is quite a lot lower humidity than my tent, quite a lot cooler as well. So I wasn't expecting it to continue sizing up. I thought it would just kind of like maintain that size. So again, pleasantly surprised by this champ of a plant. And if you're holding back on getting this plant because it's known to be a little bit finicky, hopefully this will provide some perspective. Hey Huxley. Hello chicken. Did you have a nice nap? Mom has 2 more plants to show. Okay, and then we're gonna have some snacks. Second last plant. Okay, this photo was taken in end of November last year. So a year and a month ago, give or take. I talk about this plant so much on my channel, and if you don't like the Dark Phoenix for whatever inexplicable reason, I'm sorry to say that you're gonna have to listen to me talk about it one more time. So anyway, this photo here was taken in November of last year, so just over a year ago. I had imported it late spring, early summer of that year, of last year, as a very tiny, like just bigger than a seedling size. Some might call it a seedling. It was rooting okay in moss. I was still growing in moss back then. I remember one day I was like carrying a bunch of plants up the stairs, and I just dropped it, and it snapped a couple of leaves off, so it was really devastating. And then through the summer, it also died back to almost a stump, if I'm not mistaken, maybe back to a stump, or maybe it had like 1 leaf left because there was the epic heat wave here in BC, where we had like temperatures like into the mid 40s Celsius, which is just absolutely unheard of. It was like the worst heat wave summer, I don't know, in the last century. And a lot of my plants kind of died back to a stump. They were drying out within a day, maybe 2 days. And yeah, I was really scared I was gonna lose this plant, but luckily it's a trooper and it survived. So this photo here would have been it recovering, and be maybe like the first or second leaf after recovering from the heat wave. And it definitely grew quite slow for me in moss. I would get a leaf maybe every 2-3 months. And I didn't really think it was out of the ordinary because like some of my Anthuriums would grow at that rate, but Jing's on the other hand was in pon, and it was growing super fast. Fast forward to around March of this year, I got this plant into pon, finally. Out of moss, into pon, and then the magic sauce. I inoculated it with Great White. That was like the very beginning of me using Great White, and that was one of the first plants I used it with. I was really confident that it was gonna do good things. I was confident that it wasn't going to cause any harm to this plant. And here's what it looks like now. This is the newest leaf to grow on it. It's the biggest one yet. It's got these like adorable bunny lobes. I just cannot with these bunny ears. I mean, it's equally cute as it is gorgeous. It has a couple of blemishes. This is from Azamax, I believe. Just that neem oil and Azamax sitting on the leaves while the grow lights were on, I think is what this is from. I think this was like a droplet that was sitting on the leaf while it was forming, so that's why it kind of expanded. So I'll just give you a little close up there, but it's okay. I think this was the leaf that was in that photo, this one right here. And then after that would have been this one. So like pretty much the same size. And then we were getting to like this size. And this is when it was starting to actually look like a Dark Phoenix. I remember being so excited when this leaf came out, and just that shape and that venation, that darkness. And the leaf before the newest one was this one. And we were getting lobes then too. And it's been like really narrow, this plant, which I've been really enjoying. Like I've seen a lot of Dark Phoenixes that are like more on the wide side, but this one's always been quite narrow for me. So yeah, hopefully it keeps it up, but my goodness, do I love this plant. So in a year, it didn't turn into like a specimen size plant, but it definitely sized up. It responded to all the things I was giving it. If you're kind of on the fence about pon for anthuriums and you have this plant and it's not in pon, I highly recommend. And Huxley, stop it. I urge you to put it in pon. Actually, do whatever you want. Just don't listen to me, but if it was me, I would definitely put it in pon. For some reason, Charmaine was growing hers in soil. We make these kind of substrate decisions on the spot just based on like how we're feeling, and I'm sure that's what that was, and it was growing okay, but I took hers and repotted it into pon on one of her videos, I think. Yeah, it was one of her videos, and it loves it. So this one lives in my tent. It's in my pon mix. So again, pon, perlite, orchiata. I'm really excited to see this one grow big next year. Another thing that's super exciting is that it's finally converted from petiolar sheath growth to cataphyll growth. You can see the next leaf is emerging out of the cataphyll, which means that it is finally getting to that maturity stage where it can start to flower, which I'm so excited about. I would love to collect pollen off of this and hybridize with something, but I just don't know what to hybridize it with. But the first thing that comes to mind is forgetii, because I have so many forgetii that are constantly flowering, but I love forgetii hybrids. So like in my brain, I am imagining this, but with a few sinus. But with that like venation and like that darkness. I mean, we lose these cute little bunny ears, but still it would be really cute. So you can bet your ass that the next time this puts out a leaf, I'm showing it again on my channel. All right, last plant is my, you guessed it, Philodendron Florida Beauty. This one, let me tell you, I was actually surprised at how dinky it looked when I got it onto a pole. So this photo would have been taken in March of this year, so just about 9 months ago. When I got that plant on a pole, my relationship with that plant was like, I had kind of fallen out of love with it. I had a run-in with mealybugs, I remember one summer, and I never had it on a pole, but I had it, I think it was in moss, and then later soil, and it would grow really slowly for me, and every new leaf was just so pathetic looking. I just didn't care about it anymore. So it was really an afterthought that I put it on a pole. I needed to bring a plant to Charmaine's place for a collab, and we were putting plants on poles. So I was like, all right, I guess you're getting a pole. So I brought him, put him on a pole, and this was kind of one of the first of this style of lazy moss pole that we ever did, with like the plastic backing and the plastic straps. And I was more in love with the pole, honestly, than I was the plant. And like when I was taking photos of this pole, I was more just like, look at this pole, not like look at this plant. But then it just started to grow so much faster on the pole, and that was also about the time that I started using Great White in March, April of this year. And it got the pole, it got the Great White, and it just started to grow so fast. So in just over 9 months, we are now here. It has only gotten one repot since March. I recently, like kind of semi-recently, got it into a no drainage pot with soil. So this is kind of like a denser soil mix, because I find this plant to be quite thirsty, and like a layer at the bottom. And because I'm so bad at climbers and just moss pole maintenance in general, and I struggle a lot with sizing climbers up when they're on a pole. Like I usually have them just continuously growing the same size leaves until like it's too tall and it gets chopped, but it never really like matures. I'm just constantly in awe of how amazing this plant has been for me. This is definitely like one of my favorite leaves in my whole plant room. See if I can just pull it down. The newest leaf, I can pull it down here, is looking like it's going to be absolutely stunning. Got a little bit of green there, but almost all of it is variegation. And then you can see here is quite marbly. And this is going to expand quite a lot over the next few weeks. The maturity level has been increasing with every leaf. The size has been increasing with every leaf. And the variegation has been just so much better than I could have ever dreamed of. I don't know what I did to deserve this, to be honest, because I really didn't put that much effort into this plant. It's not like I tried so much harder with this pole versus other moss poles. I did exactly the same thing. And it might just be that the lazy moss pole is just a lot easier to maintain the moisture in. Like it doesn't dry out as much as that like classic mesh moss pole. It might be that, or it might just be like this plant is freaking awesome. I'm just gonna throw that photo up one more time. Which leaf should I show? I like this leaf a lot. So yeah, then versus now. And this one here, trouble with this plant is that it's really hard to show now, but that's fine. I'm dreading the day that I'm gonna have to chop this plant. I really don't want to chop it, but yeah, that day is gonna be coming soon once it reaches the top of this moss pole. So it's probably got like another 3 leaves to go, and it might be getting the chop then. Obviously, the nice thing about the lazy moss pole is that it's constantly being air layered as it grows. I don't know if you can see it, but there's like a huge pink root right here, which is coming from, I think, up here. So yeah, at the start of the year, this was a plant I could not give a shit about. I was like, I guess I like the plant, but I didn't like my plant. And it's quickly, like in 9 months, turned into like one of the best plants in my entire collection. And I'm so proud of how it's done. Yeah, okay, so yep, that's the last plant. I'm gonna back right up here and show you the whole thing in all its glory. Starting from these leaves. Look at this one here. Now we're here. What a wonderful plant. So to kind of sum up this whole journey, it's been in soil for this entire year. It grew like absolute crap for me. And the catalyst for the change was lazy moss pole with constant moisture inside. Same soil, so it's mainly like a peat base with perlite, some bark. That's basically about it. And then great white. So great white and the pole are definitely the two biggest catalysts for it, because like lighting, temperature, humidity, everything was kind of constant for this plant this whole year. And if anything, I've moved it out of high humidity into like this exo back here. That's why it looks so empty, because this plant normally lives in there. Just because it doesn't really need the humidity as much. It will probably grow faster in higher humidity in the tent with the warmth, and it will probably root a lot faster into the pole, but it's definitely too big for that tent now. And it's rooted quite well in here as well, even in the lower temperatures and humidity. So if you have one of these that you're struggling to size up, get some myco in there and get it on a lazy moss pole. Even if you're just like impatient and you want it to grow faster and mature quicker, I would say definitely do those things. So that's 5 plants with growth comparisons for this year, and 5 plants that are definitely staples on this channel. So hopefully it was fun to kind of look back on what they used to look like versus what they look like now. And if you're just here to see plants, then thank you so much for watching, and I bid you adieu. But if you're here to hang out, I just wanted to add a little bit of a message here. This Sunday's upload, which is gonna go up on Christmas Day, is already filmed. It's collab with Charmaine. It's our last collab of the year. Another like chatty hangout video, but I wanted to take some time in this video, which is the last video I'm filming before Christmas, to say I just wanted to say a massive thank you to everyone who's been with me this year. A thank you to everyone who watches every week, and those of you who leave comments every week. And I cannot put into words how grateful I am for this little community that we have. And I look forward to reading your comments all the time. I know I'm not great at responding to comments. It's something I definitely want to get better at next year. So many of you know how important it is to the creator to like, you know, leave a like and like leave a comment and stuff, and it definitely helps the video and the algorithm, and you know exactly who you are. Even though I don't respond to every comment, just know that a lot of it is because, as most of you probably already know, I struggle with accepting compliments and accepting gifts, and the beautiful comments you leave all the time. Even if I don't respond to them, just know how much I appreciate it. And I just wanted to say thank you for 5,000 subscribers. I never really expected my channel to grow to this size within a year, and I'm really grateful for it. And I'll always maintain that my videos are absolute trash garbage, but the fact that you guys still watch means so much to me, you don't even know. So I've had a lot of fun filming extra videos for you this month. I hope you enjoyed kind of some non-planty stuff. I hope that we've all been collectively getting into the Christmas spirit. And I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for this year. I wish you all the best Christmas ever, full of warmth and good food. And I love you so much. And I will see you in the next one. Mwah!